Welcome to the Building Resiliency podcast. I'm your host, Todd Miner, and along with me is my wife,
Mia Miner.
We want to welcome you tonight. Why do we create this podcast? We realize the need to foster resiliency in our community, emphasizing families that support our young people and parents who are the true strength of our community. Mia, do you want to read this if you don't mind? Hold on. Let me pull up the other bullet. Hold on, let me take it off. Well, I'll just go ahead and read it.
For us, this is a campaign born from the deepest loss, driven by the love and memory of our young boy Matthew, who always worked hard to protect others, the Miner family. Todd, TJ, and Mia.
Thank you so much, Mia. We had a couple updates we wanted to go over. And Mia, do you want to go over this next update?
Bloomberg screening at Can't Look Away Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. Please register at, it's on the screen right there, Bloomberg.com. And then it has the invite and information. More information in the invite.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that, Mia. And before we welcome our guest today, just wanted to, this is our second part of a two-part series with the Know2Protect campaign, DHS's Know2Protect campaign. We're so thankful that they were able to be with us and be able to do this series of podcasts. And also, we're actually working with local schools to be able to bring brief Know2Protect, or I think it's called the iGuardian presentation, to the local schools. So more to follow on that. We're working on that in partnership behind the scenes, but we'll let you guys know as soon as we know when we're going to do those presentations and when we have more information. So with that, we want to welcome Ali and Rene with DHS's Know2Protect campaign, which raises awareness of online exploitation and abuse. Hi, Ali. Hi, Rene.
Hi, Ali.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys again. It's it was when I think about it, we had such a good conversation the last time. I really didn't want it to end, but we had to take a break and be able to come back and do this second part. But we're so happy that you're able to be with us for this podcast. So, Ali, Rene, I think we have your briefing. Did you want to say anything before I brought up your presentation?
We're just really happy to be back, and we're glad that we can continue this conversation because I think it was really fruitful last time and it's meaningful. And I think this is a conversation that we can't have enough.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for doing a presentation and a briefing, Ali and Rene.
Yeah, so I'm bringing up the presentation here now, and let me take that bullet off there. And with that, hold on. Sorry, getting everybody gotta do all the things behind the scenes. But with that, I'll turn it over to you, Rene and Ali, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Excellent. So I know last time we spoke about who we are, what our backgrounds are. We talked about the campaign and our goals and our mission. And today we want to dive a little deeper into some of the trends, into some of the crimes that we are seeing and that we're investigating, and the trends and crimes and how we can prevent them and how we can get out there and start talking to our community and work together.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
So when we look at our mandates for Homeland Security, there's a variety of crimes that we are mandated to investigate. So obviously the Know2Protect campaign is something that's focusing on preventing crimes of exploitation, specifically online exploitation. Exploitation can come in many shapes and sizes, but our drive and our focus are those online and technology facilitated crimes of exploitation. And when we get out there and we do the iGuardian presentations, it's very unique for us because not only is Homeland Security the one out there and we're doing those presentations, we are the agency that is investigating them. So whether it's an agent who works these online crimes against children or a forensic interviewer who is interviewing the survivors of these crimes, or an advocate who is supporting the survivors and their families, or even some of the other people within the agency, they have a tie-in to working these types of crimes. So it's unique that we get to do these presentations, but we might be the ones running with the investigation after. Say somebody comes and approaches us, like when we said somebody's coming up at the end of a presentation and we get those disclosures. So I think it's really important that we have people that are savvy and well-versed in working these, and we can just take it from there. And that's another reason why we think it's great to have local support staff giving these presentations. We try to keep it somebody that's from that area because they can talk about what they're seeing in that area, the trends. It's their community, so it's something that's close to them, and then they can relate with the communities better.
Wow. And just I know we talked about it a little bit in part one or the previous podcast, but I would imagine when they come up to you, that's got to be an emotional time. I'm just thinking, whenever those, just what we had gone through. Sometimes I would imagine maybe they don't know how to articulate what actually happened. And I'm just asking because I don't know, but I know for me, I didn't even know what the actual terms of what we went through, what we were experiencing, the name of the harm, any of that stuff. It took individuals trained like yourself to tell me what I was experiencing.
Right. And Todd, even if you had the words in a time like that, it might be difficult to find them. So that's another reason why it's really important that we have people that are equipped and knowledgeable working these crimes to go out there and give these presentations and to be able to support their communities. So I think you said it perfectly because these are high emotion, high drive situations. So we want people to be able to be equipped to get that. And kind of like Ali and I talked about last time, that's what motivates us and drives us, that we can create that safe space for people and that comfortable feeling that they can disclose what's going on with them or they can disclose something that's going on with their family. That's very motivating for us. So I think, how we're kind of put together is we can take the emotions from ourselves and put it to the side and say, okay, here we are. We're your ears, we're your shoulder. We're here for you. And let's go. Let's do this.
Wow.
Thank you.
I'm amazed every time you say that. Go ahead, Mia.
What are some of the threats that HSI has investigated? Or some of the...
So perfect segue, Mia. So we're going to get into some of those threats right now and talk about what we're seeing. So first, let's kind of break down our audiences and let's break down the populations that we're serving, starting with the younger children. I know I sounded like a little parrot repeating myself last time that you couldn't start early enough and you couldn't have these conversations enough. And that is what it is. Like, start young, be consistent, start talking about, using good netiquette. And that's basically having appropriate, no, you're good. That's having appropriate and respectful manners and following those rules when you are using electronics. So we say netiquette, you're kind of taking the net and then taking etiquette and smushing them together. That's our netiquette. I talk a lot about being a good cyber citizen and what that might entail. Again, I would always say, just because it's a screen between you, like think about, would you say this face to face? Would you share these details face to face? Talking about stranger danger and not trusting people you meet online. An example I like to use is, would you have that person come sit at your dinner table or at the end of your bed? And they might be like, no way, no way. Well, think about it. Because basically when you're bringing that little screen and you're on it in your kitchen or you're on it in your room, you're bringing a stranger into there. So it just kind of makes them think outside the box. Or, you know, are you going to talk about the color shoes that you wore to school today to some random guy on the sidewalk? And they're like, no, that's really weird. So then sharing those kind of personal details with someone you'd meet online. Think about it on a face-to-face basis. And I can often see the lights going off in people's heads, even to adults. When you say that, it kind of brings things full circle. So having those, talking about like what you're looking at, and is it inappropriate? Is it appropriate? How does it make you feel? Because if they're looking at something, say it talks about pop-ups too, say an ad pops up for maybe a sexual type of website or a harmful type of website, if it's making you feel uncomfortable, uneasy, grossed out, embarrassed, think about those. Because like, okay, that's not a safe thing. And that's when we want to lay the groundwork as the trusted adult or the parent to say, if you ever see anything like that, you can tell me about it. You're never going to be in trouble for that type of stuff popping up or somebody saying it to you. I want to know about it and I can help you. So that's what we want to do as those trusted adults in our kids' life, is talking about stuff like that. And then moving it over to the tweens and teens, then we can get a little more in the weeds with them. We can talk about the sexting, which we're going to break down a little later. We can talk more in depth about online predators, who they are, what they're doing, like some of their trends. Posting personal or inappropriate information. I think we can start this a little younger too, when we're talking about the netiquette and talking about data permanency, like how what we are doing now online can later affect us in life. Because I can tell you, back in the day when I was on the PD, when we would have new applicants for police officers, we would go through their social media accounts. And what they're doing in college can come back and bite them later. Like, do I want you representing my agency? Or if I'm a college, do I want you representing my university? Or if I'm a coach, my team? Like, you know, you go down that thing. So it makes them start thinking, because what you post now or what's out there now can come back later. So thinking, but also saying, you know, it's not the end, but just pause before you start posting that stuff. Think, because it's very easy to hit that send because you're not thinking. You know, a young person's brain, that frontal lobe is not developed. So the impulse is there. And, you know, I think it happens with many adults too. I'm sure we've all seen adults post impulsive things. And when we're talking about being an example, be a good example for your kids, because they are little sponges and they're going to mirror. So if they see you going wild on there too, they're going to model after you. And just talking about all of those.
Rene, I don't know about you, but I get a lot of initial reactions of, but I need to promote myself for the coaches to see who I am, but I have to do my schoolwork on the computer, but I have, you know, there's no way for me to talk to my mom if I don't have my phone. And I always say to them, I'm not telling you not to post. Absolutely. We just want you to do it in a way that promotes your own safety. So making sure that even though you're posting the accolades for what you're doing it in a way that keeps you safe, keeps your friends safe, keeps your family safe. That you're not posting that personal identifying information that's out there for people to be able to track you down. So, you know, you get that push and that shove because they want to be able to do it. And by all means, we're supportive of using social media. We're supportive of using technology. We're supportive of playing games. We just want to do it in a way that encourages you to be able to do it and have fun and not have to deal with these online predators bogging you down. Yeah. So that's kind of what it's about.
Wow. This is good. I like netiquette. I had never heard that. I'll keep that in mind. Say again? What'd you say, man?
No. I've read in a couple of articles. Netiquette.
I've never heard of it. Yeah, but yeah. I like it, and I think it's a good.
It is a nice.
It sums it up. It's, Yeah, how to carry
Absolutely.
yourself when you're online, are you I think you said that at certain points, some of the, I guess, are you seeing a certain age where you can, like that right age where you're kind of in between, or is it just more dependent on the
I think it
child's?
depends on the development, Todd. Like, I think Allie would probably agree with that because every kid's different. Like, you might have a young 12-year-old or you might have a super savvy, mature 8-year-old. So, in our lines of work, Allie and I are seeing younger and younger victims who are being exposed to this. Maybe it's the content that they're being exposed to at a younger age. Maybe it's peers. Maybe it's, home. Maybe it's a little bit of everything. So I think, nobody knows their child better than them. So like kind of gauging it, but, that they're seeing it at school and they're hearing it at school and it's out there, what's out there on the internet. So I think like, even if you're having kind of a more toned down, if you do have a younger seeming or younger kind of developmental child, it's okay to start talking about those maybe in a lighter, more sugar-coated fashion, and just so that can get the wheels turning and talking about those little things. And I think cyberbullying, I just want to say something quick on that, is something that we can never start early enough. Or bullying, we talk about using polite words or talking about people's feelings. So why not start working that in at a younger age? And, there's a presentation that Allie and I do together sometimes, and we talk about cyberbullying and then onto sextortion. And we all, as kids, when we dealt with bullies back in the day, it would end at the end of the day, right? You could get out of the schoolyard, and we didn't have devices. I had a pager when I was in high school, so nobody's bullying me on a pager. But the bullying would be done once you leave the schoolyard or that school, and then you could go home. Like, home was your safe place, and maybe you'd have those nerves about going back to school, but it didn't follow you home. And now when we have these electronics, the bullies can follow home. And I always give the example, we heard sticks and stones may break my bone,
never hurt.
So I say throw that out the window, because I could go up and I could punch or kick or pinch, like do whatever to somebody, and it's going to hurt for a minute, but it will go away. Words can last forever. And the example of myself, I went to a private Catholic school from kindergarten to 8th grade. We had to wear uniforms. The girls had to wear skirts and all that. We had a boy when I was in 6th grade. We're not going to shout him out, but he told me I had soccer player legs. And I always will remember that. And I say it in my presentation now. Now I'd probably be like, oh, that's a nice compliment. But he said it in a mean term. So every day that I would have to put my skirt on to go to school, I would think about my soccer player legs. And that's like, to say names will never hurt you. Those are things that are going to echo.
Stay with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now we have kids with devices, and that echo can just go, and it's going to follow you home from school. And maybe if they are kids that are bringing their devices into their room, they're just not escaping it. So I think it's never too early to start talking about the bullying and kindness and, treating people with respect.
Thank you. And they say more than half, I've read in the Pew statistics, that more than half, 46%, youth have received or have experienced some type of cyberbullying. So it's unfortunate, with cyberbullying, because it goes out, to everyone, and it's unfortunate.
And unfortunately, I think it's higher in number than that's actually reported, because oftentimes cyberbullying is part of a component of another crime. And so because the other crime then is reported, the cyberbullying doesn't get reported. Cyberbullying is so prominent, and I think unfortunately we have a hard time with it, and our kids whose brains are still trying to develop and figure it out, they have less coping systems, they have less ideas of how to get out of it, and unfortunately they're the ones who fall prey to it and can harm themselves or do something considered death by suicide just because they don't know how to get out. And that's what makes it so tough. But yeah, the Pew research is really, really good when it comes to that, because it gives some really good statistics. Thanks for bringing that up, Mia.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And that's what the Know to Protect, not the Know to Protect, but the Can't Look Away screening with that the young man who
mentioned earlier.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
So let's move on to sexting and sextortion. So sexting, I'm just going to break it down just in case there's anybody that doesn't get what it is, but it is sending, receiving, forwarding any type of sexual explicit messages, photos, videos on any type of piece of electronics, okay? And some of the things and some of the fallout we see with sexting and some of these consequences, here it is, the embarrassment and humiliation. Like Allie was talking about, when we look at all of these kind of cyber crimes and issues that are going on, it's very easy for them to morph into the next one. So say I am dating someone and him and I are underage and we decide to exchange these types of pictures, but then we break up because that's young love. Sometimes that happens. But then they say, well, if you're going to continue to leave me, I'm going to send these around, or I'm going to share this with your friends, or I'm going to do this.
Wow.
That's when we can kind of see the cyberbullying go into it, and then it can spin off into other crimes that we're going to talk about later. But we can see those kind of go into that. The school can get involved again. Really embarrassing. Police can get involved if there's a resource officer or it goes anywhere else. And then it can go next into the more serious things. So when I said maybe cyberbullying can stem from that, but then we can start to see blackmail and sextortion.
Yeah, and it even affects the families. Think about how many kids have siblings who are in the same school, and it's happening to one sibling and the effects it has on the other one. So the consequences far outweigh a lot of the things that we think about, and it doesn't only just stick to the one individual, but it could extend into their extended family, friends, and networks, which makes it like that snowball effect that keeps it going and going and going.
And Allie, it makes me think of NCMEC in their NetSmart series for the teens. There's a PSA or a video that they have where a girl and somebody exchanges messages, and it shows how quickly it goes across to all of these different people. And one of the people that pops up is her little brother, and it's on his phone, and he just slams it down. So when you were talking about that, it can affect other people. It makes me think of that video on there.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow,
so sextortion, again, here we are mushing words together. We have the sexting and we have the extortion. So traditional sextortion, I talked about kind of a boyfriend, girlfriend, and then he's saying he's going to use it against her if she doesn't get back to him. But we can see it whether it's somebody known to our victim or a stranger. Say a picture is sent. And then they say, okay, well, now I have you. We'll see a lot of the targets in these cases will say, I want this picture, but make sure your face is in it, because there's their hook into them, and say, okay, now I have your face and I have this private image. And if you don't keep sending me images, I'm going to send it out. I'm going to blast you out to everybody. I am going to share it. I'm going to send it to your coaches. I'm going to send it to your parents. I'm going to, make a Facebook page for you. And it really just starts to snowball. And then on the other side, that's kind of like, they're doing it almost for a sexual gratification and the humiliation there, but financial, there's a monetary drive behind it, okay? They're not looking for more images. They're saying, you're going to Cash App me, you're going to Venmo me, you're going to send me this, you're going to, some cases we say, go to the store and get a gift card, scratch the code off the back and send it. So then they have that. So there's no maybe, electronic exchange of money. They're having that. And that, again, I was talking about the example of girlfriend, boyfriend, maybe in the traditional sextortion, we are seeing such a large boom. And I believe we talked about this last time in young men being financially sextorted. So that picture gets exchanged, and then there's the demands for money, and things can really spin out of control from there. So again, I'm going to keep echoing it throughout when Allie and I talk today. That's why it's so important. Have these conversations, get yourself educated, educate your kids, educate the people that you care for. We have so many resources on Know2Protect that we can go out there about having those conversations. I know we talked about that last time. I just think it's so important to create that space that they can talk about it so they don't have to hold it in and go to extreme measures.
One of the things we talked about yesterday, Rene, too, was that how historically this was a crime against girls. And girls, unfortunately, have been sextorted, cyberbullied, harassed for so long that they learn to have like a thicker skin. And now the age range of boys is between 13 and 17. And not just the boys, they're just not as used to dealing with these types of behaviors aimed at them. And so they have less coping skills. They don't know how to deal with it. And so we're seeing a lot of that. And I think that it just goes to show that it doesn't take away from the fact that girls are still being sextorted at alarming rates, but that the age range for these boys is getting younger too. And the focus of them are boys who are star athletes, who are really great, who are seeking scholarships, who are being looked at and recruited by sports leagues and things like that. And they're so worried, like Rene said earlier, that their images are going to come out and it's going to ruin their careers or ruin their futures, that's when they feel like there's no end in sight and they lose hope. And so we really just want to make sure that the word gets out.
Wow.
Yeah. And you'll see at the bottom the tips to protect in either of these situations, whether it's a traditional sextortion where they're asking for those images or the financial sextortion. Don't do it, no matter what they say, no matter what they threaten. And this is a conversation that we really need to drive home with our children. Don't do it, no matter what they say. It's talk to me and we're going to get through this. We're going to contact the police. We're going to contact the proper authorities and we're going to take care of this.
Wow.
Wow, that's something.
Yeah. I was just thinking of a couple families that we know have gone through that, and then it led to things, the children ended up taking their life and stuff around all that stuff. Wow.
Yeah. So that's what we want to make sure that we can equip these families moving forward to say, like, we can help you shape those conversations. That's why we're getting out there and doing the iGuardians. And that's why we're doing them to the parents and trusted adults, to the tweens, to the teens, so we can reach all those audiences. So everybody's getting the same message, but we're coming to them at their level. And that way it can be easier because now everybody's got the info and now we can have those conversations as a family.
That's good.
Wow.
Yeah. And who they should go to the principal or the local police?
Trusted.
I think any trusted adult, whoever that may be in their life, trusted adults come in all shapes and sizes. So whoever that person is, or maybe, we know that sometimes kids don't feel like they have any trusted adult. Like when we were saying last time, we want kids to be able to be upstanders for each other. Maybe you tell a friend and that friend has the strength to help you bring it forward. And that's being a good friend. And we've had that in many cases. Somebody says, my friend is in big trouble. He or she needs help. And they're the ones that make the initial outcry for their friend.
Yeah, very good. That's good. I have a lot of essays that I've reviewed, and they mentioned the reporting, having a safe space for someone to be able to come to be able to.
You're talking about through our scholarships, applications,
reporting and being able to report it, So,
and that's
and that safe space that you mentioned as well.
Yeah, we want to make sure people know what's next. Like we talked about last time, people sometimes are familiar with all of these terms, and, you know, they know the cyberbullying, they know the sextortion, but then it's the what's next. So when we talked about that, and we'll talk about it a little later today, Allie will cover that, because we want to make sure people have that what's next.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So sextortion, we just to kind of keep things real, and this is something that we use in our iGuardian presentations, are pieces of redacted evidence, just to show, especially when we're getting our local case examples. This is an example of what sextortion looks like, and this is how the person is kind of framing it to their victim. And they start, here's the paragraph where they're threatening them. Your parents are going to see these pics. Trust me, do not delete this. We're going to still do it, even if you delete us. They're using all those intimidation and threat factors because, like I said last time, we're all good at our jobs. These people are good at being creeps and predators. So they've honed this. They've got these skills. So they're really laying it on thick. And on the right over here, you can see, you know, they're saying understand and addressing them by their name, and they're really breaking it down, and they're saying what they want for pictures, and they're asking for specific body parts or specific things. You better hurry up. They're creating those time limits, and they're really upping the ante. And, you know, even as an adult, if somebody was doing this to you, that's intimidating. So we're talking about development and age.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So imagine having all this said to you when you were a kid. It's scary.
That's scary, very scary.
Yeah, and look at this example on the right. And the example on the right, the messages in italics are what the victim is writing. Look how many more messages are coming through from the sextorter. They're bombarding her with these messages. Before she could even respond, there's another one. And we hear sometimes like the amount of messages that these kids are getting in such a short period of time is what gets them so overwhelmed that's when they get, it's almost like they can't even use their brain to figure out what's the right next thing to do. And that's what they talk about. Like, I just didn't even know what was up from down because they were just messaging non-stop and I just didn't know what to do. And we hear that a lot in their business.
And Allie, you talk really well about how quick this happened. So why don't you break that down a little bit for us? So
when we're thinking about grooming or manipulating these kids, because basically that's what grooming is. It's a manipulation of the victim. And in a traditional child sexual abuse situation, which is like a hands-on offense, sometimes that can take years before the actual touches even happen, because they're building that trust slowly and so much that by the time the touching happens, the child has such a trust and rapport with that offender that they're less likely to tell. In sextortion cases, it can take 19 seconds for the sextortion to happen. From the moment it's a hello, hi, how are you, to 19 seconds later demanding photos and pictures. Because there's so many things that happen so quickly. Sending images right now is not something that is unheard of. Kids send images of themselves all the time. They self-generating image and send it. It doesn't have to be a naked image, but it's an image. And images get sent so fast. As quick as you can think it, they want to know what you look like, and the picture is being sent. That picture can then be manipulated within seconds for that kid to feel they have no way out. So it can take as short as 19 seconds to engage in sextortion and online enticement and manipulation and the horrific crimes that follow.
Wow. That's amazing. That's so fast.
Yeah.
Right.
Very scary.
Yeah, so like you said, that's where the work in advance comes in, the conversations. Right. So that way when the young people see this, they automatically know to go to a trusted adult or a trusted friend, or, hey, to kind of give them that guidance.
You hear so many times when we do our forensic interviews, you hear, well, who knows about this? No one. You're the first person I told. I mean, do your friends know this is happening? No, I wasn't going to tell anyone that this happened to me.
Yeah.
And so they don't even think that they can trust their closest confidants, let alone going to an adult. And so the reason they're talking to us is oftentimes the images or something might get discovered before they disclose abuse or exploitation. And so we're there for them so we can be the first ones they tell. But that's how scary this all is for them, that they don't even think they can tell their best friend.
They have nobody to go to. It's so unfortunate. It's so young.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It is. And then talking about boundaries too, Mia, we teach our kids about boundaries, like when we're talking face to face, but that's another good conversation we can have, like saying no, like, you know what, I'm going to shut this off. I'm going to shut the computer. I'm going to walk away.
Yeah.
Like shut it down.
Shut it down.
So Allie used the word about pictures or the phrase getting manipulated when she was just talking. And that kind of brings us into the next morphing of crimes with the Gen AI. And Gen AI really allows for the easy creation of these child sex abuse material images and videos. So we talk about nudifying. So somebody could take a picture and then create it that it looks like a nude body. So maybe there's me in my sports uniform, or there's me, doing whatever with my family. They can use software to then make it appear like a nude body. They can take my face and superimpose it on a sexualized image, on a sexualized video. So, when we were talking about the Ivory Coast case or the other cases that were working, a lot of times kids will say, I didn't even send them a picture. They went on to my Instagram. They went on to whatever, if they have an album on Snap, if they have an album anywhere, took my pictures and created them all to be sexually explicit, whether it's superimposing a face on something or using the other software to get it involved. So they're doing that, and the kids are then nervous, even though they know they didn't do that. They're like, oh my gosh, like, what could this mean for me? Allie talked about those boys with the bright futures of sports scholarships, or maybe like someday I want to be a pro athlete. Now this person's dangling this over my head. This is going to ruin me. And they feel desperate and they feel lost, and it can get into really sad, scary situations. They also use these AI, aside from manipulating images, is they're teaching like I said, they're good at their jobs. They have like little workshops. We'll talk about, there's an online manual for predators that they're teaching each other how to do these types of behaviors and how to blackmail people. So we're seeing that. So it can get really wild, because we have these kids that aren't even doing anything and they're still being exploited. And I said those, the Ivory Coast case, or these overseas financial sextortion rings, well, it might not be sexual gratification that is motivating these targets, these bad guys. It is the financial gain, and they know that this is where they need to hit our young people over here and our kids, and this is what they're going to do, and they're going to use that to gain financial means. And then they're going to start demanding, like Allie said, you'll see the victims one-liner, one word to these people's 25 sentences. So they're doing that. They're threatening them. And it's happening all over the world. And they are victimizing our kids, and kids everywhere, but our kids in the United States. And
they really truly are transnational organized crime. So when you think about organized crime, you think of the mob, you think of money laundering, but think about, that's what this is. This is an organized crime of people overseas coming together to manipulate people for money. And there's a process in that. And so one of the things that we could see is we think about it, we think it's one person that's manipulating another person to get money. Well, really, like in Manila, if you go to the Philippines, they basically have businesses where people sit in cubicles, and the first person is the one who engages them and lures them in. Once they're lured in, it gets passed to another person, who is the person who gets the material or creates the material. And then once they have that, and then they send it to the next person, who's the one who asks for money. Then they send it to the next person, who is the one who receives the money, and so on and so on and so on. These are organized crime networks that are doing this. It's really, really big in West Africa, the Yahoo Boys, and other groups in Nigeria, Ivory Coast, and in Manila. And it's something that people don't even know is happening, and it's happening right under their noses.
Wow.
Well, and it reminds me. I mean, it reminds me of the movie Taken with Liam.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
That's exactly example of his daughter was taken while while she was on travel.
Yeah.
And you know, Liam, he came through. He got his
He
daughter.
did. He sure did.
He did. Yeah.
He was the hero.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man. Yeah. But that's you guys. I mean, just knowing these type of things and just how it's happening and how it's it's, I thought I was well read, but I'm learning as we're going through. So thank you so much for just sharing all this.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
No, of course. And then I just want to point out just this headline. We talked about Walker Montgomery last time. And you know, she called it terrorism, and that's exactly what it is. It is terrorism. They are terrorizing our children, and this is why we need to educate ourselves, educate our kids, have those conversations, and let them know if this happens, shut it down, and you come right to me, and we're going to get through this. You're never going to be in trouble. It might be an uncomfortable conversation, but we're going to leave it at that, and we're going to get things right, because we need to make sure that they have a safe place and a comfortable place that they can have conversations if this does happen to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is just a little bit more with the sextortion and what we're up against. I talked about the predators and how they're also using AI and other means to educate each other on how to be a bad guy, on how to be a predator, to how to sextort these kids and exploit them and manipulate them, whether it is for.
Oh, did we lose her?
What's happening?
No, I think maybe there she is. It just froze for a minute.
Yeah. So when they're pretending to be someone they're not in order to get into somebody's messages, into their life, they're doing that. But these people are teaching the other ones how to hone their skills. So this is one of the quotes from this Predator's handbook that goes around between all of these horrific.
Teenies both male and female identity.
Rene, did we lose you? Well, this is, until she comes back, I can jump in. So this is from the Sextortion Handbook, literally, where the predators are teaching sextorters are teaching other sextorters on how and what to do. And if you look at that, it says once you've found a potential victim, check whether they have their Snapchat username in their Instagram bio, right? And then add those users on Snap. And so they're finding ways to just start on one thing and then they go to another. So even though she might say, oh, I was never friends with him on Snap, he had her Snap because it was on her Instagram, and they teach them how exactly to look for that, right? Sorry, Rene, we lost you for a minute, so I was just catching them up.
That's fine. I saw you guys all disappeared. I just can't see Todd, but I think we're good. Now I can see everyone. Okay, we can proceed.
And can you, Rene, talk more about catfishing and explain kind of what it is?
Yeah. So this is, say I am the predator. I'm the predator, and I know Allie. I've been studying her online, and I can see she's got a wide open public profile, so I can learn a little bit about her. I know what makes Allie tick, so I can create whoever I want to be. So if I'm going to come to Allie, then I'm going to be Tom Brady, or I'm going to be Justin Bieber, or I'm going to be whoever Allie likes. I can start shaping that personality. So that's what we're seeing these predators do. We'll have young kids, whether they like boys or girls or whatever their thing is. That's who I'm going to make myself be. And it's so easy for me to get canned images off the internet. I can load them up with lots of pictures of myself, lots of selfies, pretend to be this person, convince them, they get comfortable with me, and then I might be taking it to the next step. Maybe I'm going to start my sextortion process. I know all this about her. I have access. I know Allie was talking about the Snap and the Instagram. Now I know who her friends are. I know I can see her friends list. I can see all of that. So then I can hold that over Allie's head and say, all right, now I've got this of you. So you better be careful because I'm going to send it to this person, and this person. And I see you have relatives. So I'm going to make sure they got it. And they'll go on from there. But that's the catfishing. It's very easy to pretend to be someone else when you're behind the screen.
Wow.
So looking, this is more with the sextortion. We have some more of these news headlines in here. And we're talking about, let's talk about one of these overseas, the Nigerian or the Ivory Coast ones. So say we have a young man and he's just hanging out in his room. He's kind of bored. He's kind of lonely. It's late at night. And then all of a sudden this pretty girl slides into his DMs and she's like chit-chatting with him. She's flirting with him. That's exciting. I mean, what young man's not going to be excited about that? And again, we talk about, brain development and impulsiveness. And that's what I say, like, even as adults, we can be impulsive and, things can take over. So this girl, I'm going to use my finger quotes, starts flirting with him. And she's like, let's exchange nudes. She sends some pictures. That's what we're seeing in these scams. They kind of had some canned images and videos that looked exactly like what they would type would kind of match what's going up in the video. Again, these people are great at what they do. They're professional creeps. He does that. So he exchanges some images with her. And then all of a sudden they turn the tables and this woman is really a cyber criminal in Nigeria. I'm going to expose you. I'm going to put these photos on blast. You need to give me $1,000. And this person works really quick. Like Allie was saying, they are organized crime. We might have the master manipulator of photos. He's pulling or she's pulling all of those photos off their social media accounts. They make a collage with images of the sexting, actual words, some of the pictures, and then a portrait from his college graduation right there front and center with his name and phone number. And, imagine having that over your head wall, imagine, and then get me that $1,000. And these kids are desperate. We've had kids that were like, I ended up stealing money, or I have access to my parents' cards, or I have access to that. So I paid them. And I've talked to parents like, I can't believe you do that. But these people know kids nowadays have access to that. Maybe they have your card in their Apple Wallet, because if they get into something, or there is a little shared account if your kid needs something here or there. So they know these people are studying our behaviors and our family's behaviors, so they can hit us where it counts, and they can really start exploiting these children.
Yeah, and you can see the evolution of this. Like Mia, we talked about earlier, when I said, when we were talking about the statistics from Q about catfishing. So this starts as catfishing, right? And then it goes into more into, could even be cyberbullying, and then sextortion, and it keeps on going and going and going. By the time it gets reported, the crime that it's looking at is sextortion, but it started out with a catfisher, right?
Wow.
And so all these crimes somehow, shape, or form can evolve from one into another. They don't have to be standalone, right?
This is, they could go many directions with something like this. And I would imagine once they get a certain amount, then they ask for more. They just, just keep asking until, I don't know. Until
we've had kids that make multiple financial exchanges because they probably figure, okay, well, I know they have access. So, I've interviewed survivors of these that there was 6 financial transactions before it finally stopped, or something
But
happened.
these Nigerian, they come as emails though. Not
some will do that.
Different ways, man.
Yeah, they can go right into your DMs, Mia. They could hit you up on Instagram, and you could just think it's some handsome man or some pretty girl like coming in there to talk to you. They could get you on Facebook Messenger. They could just add you as a friend on any of the socials. They can get you on Snap. These people are studying what our children are doing, and they know that this is the best hunting ground. This is where I'm going to find the kids. This is where I'm going to find the vulnerable. So they've made a real sick art of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Terrible. Damn.
It just gets you.
Gets you mad. It's just.
Yeah.
So to kind of bring that all home, let's talk about some tips to protect. So number one, teaching our kids the data permanency. Once we hit send, it's out there forever, but it's going to be okay. You come and talk to me, stop the communication. Don't fall into their blackmail and their bribes. There's nothing worse that they can do. Like, you can trust me. I'm going to do my best to keep you safe. We're going to get in touch with those people that will help keep us even safer. We're going to go from there. So stop that communication with them. Block the accounts and save the evidence. I think so many times, and both, like parents can do this quite often, not just the kids. Oh my gosh, this is really bad. Delete. But we don't want to delete. We want to save that evidence for law enforcement because it's going to really aid them in their investigations. And even though it's sickening and upsetting and going to make you feel all sort of ways as a parent or a trusted adult, save it, shut it down. A lot of times we'll say pop that phone into airplane mode because some of these people are super advanced and they can they can delete things from different places. So that's another tip that we like to say. But save that evidence and, have those conversations. Teach your kids that there is safe people and, law enforcement is not there to get them in trouble. They're not going to jail. They're not getting a criminal rap sheet. Like, they want to help you and they want to help end it just as much. So it's safe to have that. Well, it might be awkward or embarrassing or make you feel some sort of way. This is what they're trained to do and they're going to support you. And we want to get to the end of this.
Absolutely.
That's good. And that's good. I was gonna say take it down the bill.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think all of that is right there, and we're on the brink of being able to do some really amazing things. But the reality is, it's still all out there right now, and I don't want. It's hard for us because we have such great programs now that are starting to take things down, but at the same time, it's still right now out there. And we need to figure out a way to stop it from getting out there to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So if it happens to your child, there's a lot of things that we want you to know. And we're going to help you look at some things and some signs kind of to watch for. Now, please know that this list is a common indicators of like what you might notice if there's changes going on with your child. But you as the parent or the trusted adult or the guardian are the best person to know what those changes are because every child is different. So one of the things that we say, these are just 5 ways that things to look at, but a sudden change in mood or emotional state. So all of a sudden they're really moody or they're always really a happy-go-lucky kid and now they're more serious or vice versa. They're really normally serious and now they're just like, you don't even know like who your child is anymore. Maybe they're being really evasive of their activities online. So like maybe minimizing screens or hiding their accounts or apps when normally they were the type of kid who was always showing you, look at this video, let me show you this and that and the other. And all of a sudden it just went to a complete change. Spending more and more time on the screen, being hyper-focused or really oriented on only being online in that online environment and maybe not talking to their friends so much anymore. Like in their real life friends aren't coming over to the house as much. And you notice that could be signs of social media addiction, but it could also be signs that they can't walk away from their phone for fear that they're being sextorted, and they have to respond to that sextorter because they don't know what's going to happen next. Maybe they've received some random gifts or gift cards, or all of a sudden they have a new pair of shoes or a shirt, or they said, oh, I want to get something on Amazon, and you don't know how they got it, but it was gifted to them through a wish list on Amazon or something like that. And they're really just answering you more in a vague way about behavior or their online behaviors and what they're doing online, and they're not just being as open and honest with you. Now, maybe your kid was always like this. Maybe your kid was always vague with their questions of what they're doing online, and maybe there are always withdrawals from the real world, and they didn't have as many in-person friends as they did online. So that's not going to be an indicator, but you're going to notice a change in their behavior one way or another. And so that's what we really want you to look at. Changes in their common behaviors, their everyday behaviors. And then if you think something's happening, this is when we say, this is when you talk to them. Because this isn't the first time you've talked with them and you've had ongoing conversations from an early age, when you notice something, talking about them isn't as hard. There's really great things on our website about conversation starters of how you can start that conversation. But really establishing that trust early on will allow these conversations when you notice something to be so much easier. And parents have to do their part too. It's not just all falling on the kid. Parents have to know how to set the parental controls. And on our website, you can find resources on the gaming apps and different things on the phones that parents can do. And what we have to do at Know2Protect is constantly keeping them updated, because that changes all the time too. As systems upgrade, our resources upgrade too, because we want to make sure that you're not having out of date information. But like Rene said just on the slide before, be prepared to save all the evidence. Contact the platform or the game or the app that the offense was taking place on, so that app or that platform is aware that there is an online predator with kids. They're made aware of it, and that's different from contacting the police. Also reach out to the correct authorities, and we're going to give you some ways to reach out. If you're not sure who to report to, we'll give you these places where you can for sure report, and it will get sent to the correct authority. Block the account and put it in airplane mode. One of the things that we're teaching kids to do is not share their passwords, not share certain things so that other people can get onto their profiles and things like that. But we also know that these are master manipulators. Their job is to manipulate children, and they can even manipulate the child who knows better, but does it because they don't feel like they have it out. And maybe their passwords were given, and so if you don't put it in airplane mode, you might not be able to protect the content that's on there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Put in the airplane mode.
We really want to encourage that an exit strategy is built. And what does that mean, an exit strategy? So if you look at some of the research on Thorn, if you go to the No Filter quizzes, there's a really interesting statistic that says that 80% of teenagers know that they should have an exit strategy, and they even have an exit strategy. But then 80% of those kids don't know when to implement it. Okay, so they know that they're supposed to go to a trusted adult if A, B, and C happens, but sometimes they're not sure if that's happening and if this is the right time. So between you and your kids, you can create this exit strategy so there's never a question as to when to tell me. You could always tell me. And maybe it's nothing, and you can continue having this friend, or maybe it's something, and we're going to work on protecting you and keeping you safe. So the first and foremost in building an exit strategy is to tell someone close to you. So that should be the first step. And like Rene said, sometimes kids don't know that they have a trusted adult. Even though they do, they may not feel they do, or maybe they really don't. And so they need to always tell someone close to them. And that could be a friend, that could be a peer, that could be a coach, that can be really anyone. And always encourage kids, if you tell someone and they don't listen, tell someone else. Tell someone until someone hears you, and tell someone until they listen to you. Okay. And then always stop all contact with your online friend, okay? What do I mean by your online friend? That means it's only online. You've never met this person in real life. It's an online-only friend, and you should stop all contact at that point. Remember not to delete the messages and photos. Like Rene said, aids law enforcement to be able to track this person down and provide timelines, jurisdictions, lots of information that without it makes it sometimes impossible to be able to further the investigation. So the more information, the better. And like I said, report to both the police and the platform or the app, because everyone there is to help. So if you report to Meta, Meta is going to report it to NCMEC. If you report it to the police is going to, go there. If you report to the Know2Protect tip line, we're going to make sure that the appropriate person gets it. And so there's definitely lots of places you could report, but just make sure that you are reporting. And then remember that it can happen to anyone and that they're not alone. This is a message that these kids need to have. It can happen to absolutely anyone. We say this, I feel like we said it so much last time, but these crimes do not discriminate. Older kids, younger kids, girls, boys, white, black, brown, it doesn't matter. And so we need to make sure that they know that it feels really bad. And it is really bad, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel and they're not alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really important, like if this does happen to your child, stay calm. Young children and teens are the victims in these situations. They're not the ones to blame. You might be furious inside, but outside, you show them calmness, show them love, show them you're there for them and that you will support them no matter what. Yeah, you can still parent and you can still do the things that you need to do to make sure that your kids know that some things aren't right from wrong and all that kind of thing. Yeah. But in that moment, it's not the time. In that moment, they need your support so that they will continue to tell you as much information as possible. So creating that caring environment makes the child feel safe to talk to you, and it makes a world of a difference. And again, all these next two bills are what we've already said. Stop communicating immediately. As a parent, don't respond. As a parent, don't go on there and be like, do you know that you're talking to a 12-year-old? We don't want you to do that because you're engaging with them and that makes them aware that the child told an adult, and then they can delete information. They can discard it. They can remote to your devices and your critical information. Let the authorities do that. Let the police deal with the bad guy. You deal with your kid, right? And then that way, as soon as you contact the authorities, they'll take that into action. So what does that look like? We're telling you that you're not alone. We're telling you we have resources. But how do you? Here's 4 ways you can report. So call the Know2Protect tip line. It's not manned 24 hours, but it has everything on there will be answered. The cyber tip line for NCMEC, you can report it, report.cybertip.org. There's also a phone number that you can call. Or if an absolute emergency situation is occurring, dial 911. Your local police are there to help you and to keep you safe. If you feel like you're in immediate danger, 911 will be there much faster to be able to help you, and they're equipped to do that. That's part of their job. And then maybe you did report these things, and as a parent, you just feel overwhelmed and you don't know what to do. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is there for you too, but it's also there for your kid. So your kid feeling really stressed out, even after they told you, even after they're loving and hugging on you, maybe they need to hear from someone else, not just you, that it's going to be okay. And you can encourage them to reach out. They can text 988, they can call 988, but either way, that's a 24-hour helping crisis lifeline. If they feel they need to send out someone to help you, they will. So these are just some options. But what happens, a lot of questions we have is people don't know when to report, okay? Just like kids don't know when to use their exit strategy, sometimes parents don't want to be the overreactor and they don't want to do things that are out of turn. It's never out of turn. So if you even suspect that someone is exploiting or abusing your child, you should notify law enforcement as soon as possible, okay? Whether the person you suspect is an adult or a peer, maybe it's one of their peers that are doing this, report. And for a deeper understanding, you can go to our website at dhs.gov and visit the Know the Threats, and you can have a lot more information. But you should be reporting anytime your child feels harassed or unsafe online. If someone's asking or pressuring your child to take pictures or videos of their private parts, their genitalia, or even just their bodies in general, and it's making them uncomfortable or making them go on video calls and live stream, report.
Yes.
If someone online is threatening your kid or your teen, like we talked about with sextortion, where they're starting to share previously explicit images, immediately report. And if you even find out that someone has created or shared or is in possession of child sexual abuse material, which is formerly, most people are more familiar with the term child pornography, but now it's child sexual abuse material, report. It's by no means an exclusive list. Okay? Yeah. But it's a start. And if you're not sure, go to Know2Protect and look at it and reach out to someone who can help you. But even if you're just suspicious about it, there's no harm in reporting. There's harm in not reporting, because then that child doesn't get help if they need it.
Yeah. And Allie, I think it's important to note, I deal with populations that are everything from big cities to really remote areas. And sometimes I'll have kids or parents in the remote areas saying like, we don't really have a lot of police presence, or maybe we have like troopers that swing through every so often. So the access to law enforcement is not something regular for them. Allie listed those other resources like our tip line, NCMEC's tip line. Those are all perfect. If you do not have regular or easy police access, use those tip lines, because that is specifically what they are for. And that's something I'll hear a lot when I'm out in the field. They're like, well, we just don't get access to police officers much. There's not many people around here.
Good point. And if you're wary of the police in your neighborhood, maybe you've had some really negative experiences with the law enforcement, and you're not sure that that's going to be helpful for you, you have another place to report. So that's just the most important thing, is to report one way or the other. So then the next question we get is, what happens after you report? So this little chart on the side kind of like breaks it down. So the incident occurs, we're asking you to report. That report gets evaluated. If it's going through a tip line, it might go through an intake access line or something, and then it gets referred to the appropriate person where it gets investigated, then evidence collection, and then a potential prosecution. Okay, that's how it works. But, reporting the incident helps law enforcement officials stop the harassment, it helps them arrest the offender, it helps them make sure that the victim's getting the support and the resources they need. Okay, and if you need a detailed description of what some of that is, you can go onto our website, and we have a bunch of resources to help people know how to support. We have a whole section on supporting victims and survivors. Okay, so if you call the Know2Protect tip line and leave a tip, all that information that's reported is reviewed by an intake support personnel. Then it's referred to the appropriate government agency or local law enforcement. So maybe the report isn't going to stay at the federal level. Maybe it's going to go to the state level, and maybe it ends up going to both. But that is going to be the decision by where it appropriately needs to land. Okay. Once it lands there, that appropriate law enforcement official, sorry, I got tongue-tied, will be contacting the person who made the report. So let's just say, Todd, you made the report. They're going to reach out to you to find out more information about your report, to hear from you about what happened and what you know. And then they're going to take that additional information, and they're going to collect the evidence if there's evidence, devices if there's evidence, devices to collect, continue doing more interviews of witnesses, maybe the victim themselves at that point. Forensic analysis will be completed of those devices, and in an in-depth investigation following up on all the verbal leads as well as the digital leads that they receive to ensure that victim is being taken care of. And law enforcement takes pride in ensuring that the information provided of victims, especially minors, is protected. So at HSI, we must, by law, protect the identity of victims of crime. And so we go as far as in reports, not using their names, using like MV1, minor victim one, or a victim one, just victim one. We don't even have to say that they're a minor, and that way their information is protected as much as possible. And then if there's enough evidence to support it, arrest is made and then hopefully put into the hands of the prosecution for a potential prosecution. So it's a whole process, and it takes time. And it can be frustrating sometimes because you as a parent might think it's taking too long, but you want to make sure that the investigation is thorough and that they're doing all the steps they need to do. And just remember, again, we said this before, but we'll say it again. This is separate from making a report to the platform, the social media platform or the gaming app, okay? They're separate things. But I want you to know that if you report to Meta, Meta is going to be reporting to law enforcement, okay? We have Snap and Meta are partners with Know2Protect, and they will be reporting. And they report to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children when there's content on their platforms that aren't good. And we, as partners, we want to ensure their safety. If you have questions about that for the apps, we have some resources on our site, but you could also go to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and you can get frequently asked questions there about how to report to the gaming platforms and things like that.
Okay.
Oh, this is good. Wow.
Thank you.
So I want to bring your attention, kind of pivot a little bit and bring your attention to what we call digital boundaries. This is our summertime campaign. Okay, every summer we have a campaign while kids are outside of school to help parents and trusted adults protect kids when they're not in a classroom during the day. Because what happens in the summertime is they just naturally have more screen time. And they naturally are not always being supervised because it's summer, right? They might be at home 5 hours a day. They might be at home. Parents still have to work, even though it's summertime. Lots of different things. So they have access to being on screen a lot more. And so our Digital Boundaries campaign launches next week. And we have information specific to protecting your kids during the summertime. For coaches, for camp counselors, for parents, for trusted adults, for anyone who's working with kids and for the kids themselves, so that they can learn how to continue to use their favorite app or messaging app or gaming platform in a way that's going to continue and maintain that safety and the things they learn during the year. So these are two examples, tips to identify fake profiles, social media and online gaming, things like that. So these are just two of the many different resources that are launching on next week for our Digital Boundaries campaign. And so to visit know2protect.gov, you can learn more about that and get some of these new updated resources for you and your families during the summer months.
Thank you.
Wow, it's really good.
So this goes back to your whole thing of take it down, and I'm going to pass this to Rene so she can talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so I know we've talked about Take It Down, and Mia, you brought it up, the Take It Down Act. So the Take It Down service and the campaign is a service offered by NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and it helps remove nude or partially nude or any type of sexually explicit photo or video of underage people. These certain images and videos are given a unique digital fingerprint, right? It's called a hash value, and it is very specific to each image or video. So say I know there's a picture of me and I'm a minor and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know this person shared it online. I can go on here and it gives different options. Are you the victim of this, or are you reporting on somebody else's behalf? And it walks you through it. It is so user-friendly, and it's user-friendly for all ages. They do a really great job to walk you through, and then it's going to look for that image. It has the hash value, and they'll be able to remove that content. But Allie made a really good point before. While this is an amazing service and help, to our kids, letting them know, we'd like to make sure it all disappears, but right now that is impossible. So again, pausing before we post, being able to stop and set those boundaries. You're not going to bully me into this. I'm going to say no to you. Things like that are very important. But if it gets beyond, there is hope, and we get some of it down, but we can't promise that it's all going to disappear. But this is an amazing step in the right direction, and it aids many.
Yeah. I'm going to age myself here because I always like to tell this to parents, or at least parents that are my age and above. Remember when you used to email people all the time, and like, for example, you would maybe email a recipe, and you email the recipe to your girlfriend, and because she loved it so much, and then she cooks it, and then her friend says, "Oh, will you email me the recipe?" And then one day you're at a party, and the cookies that you're so proud of making are at that party. You're like, "How'd you get that recipe? I don't even know you," right? That's how images get spread. Okay. And so even though we know where they might be sometimes, we can't know where they are all
the time. Yeah.
And so that's why teaching and bringing awareness of not putting your personal data in there to begin with will help bring awareness to them and maybe stop it, and maybe there'll be less to take down if we can continue to raise awareness about it.
Awareness.
Yeah.
Awareness is important.
Absolutely. So next I want to go over our family online safety agreement. Again, this is one of our amazing resources. And I think this is so important because, again, we're putting some responsibility on ourselves as the parents and trusted adults. And then we're asking the kids to do the same. So we're doing this together. We're going to stay safe online together. We're going to take those steps together. And it's something tangible. So it's beyond the conversation. And I feel like, having the child sign something, that's kind of a mature thing to do. Like, oh, now I have this responsibility. Like, we're doing kind of adult or like big kid stuff here. And there's the onus on them that they're saying, okay, I signed my name to this, and we're going to have it out there. And, we're going to work together to protect our personal information. We're going to be kind and respectful. We're going to balance the screen time. So this is, again, where I really want to harp on the adults thing. It's so easy to lose track of that screen time and to get sucked into those electronics. And, taking that time, like, we're not going to have electronics at the dinner table. That was a thing in my house when my kids were growing up, or when they were younger. Your phones aren't going to bed with you. And we had the one-liners. They're going to probably listen to this podcast and say, "Why are you throwing me under the bus?" But they would say, well, I need it as my alarm clock. Like, no, I am your alarm clock, darling. Like, that doesn't need to go. But like, we're going to put it in a basket. We're going to charge it in our room and doing all those things. But I'm going to do it too. I'm going to do it. And I promise that I'm not going to be on that at dinner time. And I promise during our car rides, I'm not going to be texting and driving, or I'm not going to be into this. Like, we're not going to do that. So it's all those little things. And I just think it's a really cool and, successful way of doing this, because we're owning it at the same time as they are. And we're doing this. Yeah, own it together. And Allie has a great story about the online safety agreement.
So I was doing an interview, and the child had done this online agreement with his parents. And he was telling me, he was calling his dad out because, remember we talked about etiquette?
Yeah.
So the kid was calling his dad out because he was sending really mean texts to someone else. And he called him out and said, "Remember, we were supposed to be kind and respectful online. And that also means protection." So I thought it was really, really, like, it just shows that this can work if done right. And they actually hung it on their refrigerator. They hung it on their refrigerator door. So it was there. And it was a constant reminder of, that everyone had to do it. There was another one, and I can't remember what it was. But yeah, I mean, when you start to see these get incorporated in your everyday life, it becomes just as natural as anything else.
Right.
You know? So I think
and Allie, really important at the end is the trust each other. And again, like here I am being a parrot on the shoulder repeating, but trust each other and lay that foundation that they can trust you and you're not going to burn them and you're not going to turn the tables and be mad at them. And it's going to take self-control and it's going to take discipline as parents. Cause you want to be like, oh my gosh, I thought I talked to her. Why would you do that? What's wrong? So it's all of that, just letting them know it's okay. We're going to get through this together. Let's trust each other. We're going to have open dialogue and we're going to get those resources. And there's lots of help for us. So we'll make it.
Yeah, for sure. So once again, this is our QR code. You can scan it and it will take you directly to the Know2Protect.gov website. And we're all over social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, X, we're on YouTube, and we're at Know2Protect. That's how you can follow us on social media. Don't forget to visit our YouTube page where we have our PSAs that really talk about that 19 seconds that you guys were, what we mentioned earlier. And also has a digital safety series on there with some major points about data privacy, what is the difference between sexting and sextortion, all that kind of good stuff. Come and visit. And then you'll also find our digital boundaries summertime campaign resources on there as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And I know we talked about the resources and Allie went through that in hers. So we're just going to echo them again, because I think we cannot put it out there enough. Not only can you get it on our site, but here they are again. We have NECMEC, we have the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, as well as Take It Down.
Thank you. That's good.
This is, I'll let you guys see. Yeah, this is you guys' content.
Yep. Right? This is just the HSI tip line. Here's NECMEC again. And then here is both my and Allie's email addresses. And, I look forward to more conversations. Do you guys have questions for us? We covered a lot today.
Yeah. I just was going to say something because you were talking about the parents managing their reaction and stuff, because I think Mia's with me as well on this, but at times we're like, what? Huh? We're just and just so animated and
try to stay calm.
Bothering children, what? But like you said, I think that was good advice. To stay calm. Let your child or young person share what's going on. I think if they see you calm, then they'll be calm, and that kind of thing. And it definitely goes against what if it's kind of our nature to keep kids safe and protect them, and then it just all those emotions come out and stuff. And, so I'm glad you definitely mentioned that, because I think most parents are like that. If somebody's bothering their child, or what?
Oh yeah.
Where are they? How do I find them? I'm going.
I'd be the same way. I'd be the same way, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. I'm like, I would go full blown emotion and be like, okay, we're gonna go find this person, but then no, you got to check yourself and let it get done the right way, and I have that conversation with parents on the regular, no street justice, no nothing, have your feelings.
No taking.
No taking blows.
I'm gonna do. I think everybody kind of imagines themselves probably saying that at some point if somebody's messing with your family, your kids and stuff.
Right.
So. But but it is just part of that. That main thing, that main, just our human nature. I think to want to keep your young people in the most vulnerable part of our society safe. You're going to have those reactions. So,
Rene always says, "Pause before you text, pause before you post." For a parent, we can say, "Pause before you react." It's the same kind of thing. The expectation we're giving our kids, we should give ourselves a really positive expectation as well. So,
absolutely.
Well, Mia, did you have a question? Because
it was a very good learning session, about, the online harms and knowing a little more in depth of what they are and how we can prevent it, but provide awareness before it gets to the whole, we need to take it down. So that it was a very good learning session. Now, here's the thing. I don't know what a DM is. What is that?
The DM's a direct message.
Direct message. So I was like, these are DM.
You're like, I need to know.
I just wait.
But
I don't know. Am I ancient?
No.
I learn something new every day when it comes to this internet stuff. So, my job. So, absolutely. Glad you asked.
Always evolving.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I did have at least one question. I just wanted to see if while you were doing this, maybe the interviews and just everything that you guys have done, was there something that stood out maybe that you would maybe want to share, or just a moment through all your work that you want to share, and just maybe that's one of those things. I think maybe we touched on that in one of our previous podcasts, but something that was memorable that was kind of like, wow, we're going to kind of keep us going with what we're doing.
Yeah. Rene, do you want to go first?
Sure. So recently I got a picture of a young person that I helped several years ago graduating, and they felt like they had gotten into a space that they would not be going anywhere further than where I met them at, which was a really, really bad situation. And, they felt like they had lost all hope. And unfortunately, they were one of those situations where they didn't have the blood trusted adult in their life. And, they were brought to our attention from other people. And I got, I got the graduation picture of them walking, and it gives me goosebumps saying it. It might get my eyes a little hot, but that's what it's all about, because I was the first set of ears that listened to them, and they had really negative experiences with the law because the people that raised them were not making the right decisions and not doing the right thing. So they always were taught, don't trust them, don't talk to them, disrespect them. That's okay. Don't play games with them. And they were just in a really bad place when I met them, and now they are thriving. So again, that's what it's all about. Seeing somebody when they can open up to you and trust you, that's number one. That's what drives it home. But then seeing those success stories, or the person, when I was in detectives, we'd have once in a while a survivor come by the office and give you an update because you created that space. They know where the office was, and they'd be like, hey, I just wanted to tell you this, Detective Young, I did that. So it's this is amazing to see somebody thriving that was at such a low point when you met them, and to just see them flying high it's everything.
That's good.
Wow.
That's a great story, Rene. And sometimes the work that we do is thankless. We do what we do, and we gather information, and we don't often hear the end result. As an interviewer, I'm not the investigator, and so I'm involved during the investigation, but then I just sometimes never hear of the results of the case because so many things have happened since then. So hearing that and getting that, Rene, is just so impactful. It kind of choked me up hearing you talk about it. My moment was also somewhat similar, but I interviewed a 15-year-old girl just on her birthday. I don't remember if it was the day of or the day after or right before, but it was right there on her birthday. She just turned 15. And she was extorted, and there was images of her. And I conducted a forensic interview of her, and then I received an email from her a short time after, and it was a thank you letter. It was a letter from her saying that it was the best 15th birthday gift she ever had received, and that I helped her get through something she couldn't have gotten through on her own, that she's going to be okay and she doesn't have to look back anymore, and that she can move forward. And for me, it was sometimes you doubt, am I doing it right? Am I good enough? Am I really helping anyone? Because, you just go through your daily job, sometimes, and you don't realize the impact that you're actually having on someone. And she brought that to me, and I use her email in my presentations, like on a regular, because I think it's important for people who do these jobs, for people who are the ones who are the trusted adult, for those people who are listening and hearing kids' truths, to be able to know that even if you don't know the outcome, these are the outcomes. And even if you don't hear it enough, you're doing amazing work, and you are there for kids who might not have it anywhere else. And so that was the moment for me, one of the moments, but in the past, since I've been on with Homeland Security, that was my moment.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
wow.
Beautiful.
I think because what you brought up, a lot of times when you're in that space, you don't get thank you. The work is the thank you, but at least I'll say, and I think Mia will also say, we want to thank you and your whole team for the work that you do. I mean, having gone through the things that we've gone through with losing Matthew, it just to know that you guys are there for other young people and individuals being exploited online. I'm glad Mia said, "Hey, I'm gonna reach out to them," and I'm like, "Who are they?"
Yeah.
She said, "Oh, they do things to keep kids and people safe online and stuff." And I was like, "They do? And who are they part of?" And she said they're part of DHS. And I got to tell you, I mean, just didn't know, but now we're just gonna as much as we can share, be able to let everybody know that you're there. But then it's you were there the whole time, and so even before this, before kind of your other campaigns and things that kind of getting you out there and things like that, you've been working. So just from the bottom of our hearts, we want to say thank you, and just please keep doing what you're doing. Mia, did you have? I didn't want to just speak for both of us, but I felt led to when they were talking about it, because and the reason why is because sometimes at least we know also, at least for our piece of the work in this keeping kids safe and keeping families safe online, it is kind of that you're just getting up, it's quiet, you just have that internal drive inside of yourself to keep yourself going. But this right here, I mean, this is I don't know. I'm just smiling, and I'm looking at Matthew's picture right now, seeing him smiling, and I know he's smiling from above, stuff like that. This is just wonderful that all this is coming together to bring awareness. The more awareness, the more that we get it out there. That increases exponentially the amount of individuals you can help, and just having the numbers, having the resources, if something happens, that's empowerment within itself.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, man.
Thank you, honey. You didn't cover everything. But no, really, we appreciate all that you've done, and the presentation was very informative. It provides a lot of awareness to the youth and how we can go out and be able to provide that information to them. But it's just been a good, informative presentation. I really thank you, Ali and Rene.
And this is a start, and this is a start of a wonderful partnership. We hope to have, as we said before, we'll have some additional, within the community. We want to have some in-person briefings and training for young people and parents. So everybody look forward to that. Any final words, Ali, Rene, and then Mia?
I think
I'll just say, it's like I said it last week, I'll say it again, it's an honor. It really is an honor to have been asked to come on your podcast and to share what we know and be able to help spread the word about awareness. We say together we can stop online exploitation. together we can do a lot, and what happened to your family shouldn't be happening. What happened to other families shouldn't be happening. But unfortunately, it did, but we're here to support you and bring you up and uplift you and your organization. Thank you for uplifting ours. And thank you for continuing to spread the message that we need to bring awareness to these horrific crimes that are happening to our kids out there. It's been an absolute privilege to join you for these 2 weeks. I'm kind of bummed that it's just 2 and that we're done.
Thank you so much. Well, if there's nothing else, I guess we'll just end it with thank you. Have a good night, and until next time, talk to you later. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you.